Manchester. It's time to drop knowledge. Your Access All Areas panel begins now. Moderated by your Access All Areas resident, Rafaela Coleman.
Hello, hello. Testing 1, 2. Welcome to Access All Areas. London is in Manchester. How are you all doing? Nice to meet you. Today's panel is going to be all about getting into the music industry. It's going to have a really sort of organic chat. I'm someone that likes to start from the beginning, understands people's journeys, how they got to where they are, the journey that they want to continue on to going. So we will open out to you guys after for questions. I'm going to let my wonderful panel introduce themselves because there's so many of you. So if we want to start, if you want to grab the mic, and we will start with Danny.
Hello, my name's Danny Fahey. I'm the Culture and Partnerships Director at TPG Agency, which is a cultural agency, work primarily in advertising and marketing. So we're a company that works hard to connect brands with talent and brands with audience. So yeah, that's me. I've been in the business of entertainment for probably close to 30 years. But this particular business has been 10 years this October. So I'll hand it over.
Amazing.
Hi, I'm PARRIS. I am currently the Artist Partnerships Manager at TikTok and SOUNDON UK, which is our distribution label. I also do artist management on the side. I've been in the music industry for too long, about 15, 16 years, doing both independent work, working at record labels, now working in tech, music, and artist partnerships. So yeah.
Love that.
Hi, I'm John Green from Unity Radio 92.8 FM. I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I started doing pirate radio in the late 90s in London.
That's the best radio.
Yeah. So, and then came up to Manchester, and I've been doing that now up in Manchester for like 23 years. But I also work extensively with a lot of young people. So we develop grassroots talent. We do a lot of workshops, and we promote hip-hop education, helping young people to understand how to increase self-belief and to use DIY methods to kind of be creative and entrepreneurial.
Love that. Do you want to grab that mic there?
Hi everyone. So my name's Lady Ice, and I am a artist from Manchester and also an entrepreneur. I started at a very tender age. I learnt the business, perfected my creativity, and here I am today. I also do TV as well and bits and bobs on the side, but yeah, that's me.
Amazing.
Yeah, let's do that one. Hey guys, my name is Shantae. I am a music journalist, freelance, but I mainly write for GRM, Clash, previously New Wave magazine. I've been a writer since like 2018, so I'm not good at maths, but whatever that maths is, that's how long it's been, so yeah.
Welcome. Big it up. Give us a big round of applause for our amazing panel. My name is Rafaela Coleman. I'm a BBC radio presenter. I've been in the music industry, music, TV, film, you name it. I've done every single job under the sun. I've started at the bottom, worked my way up, and I'm still working my way. But I've worked in the game for about 10 years plus. So it's not about me, though. It's about my amazing panelists today. As I said, we're going to talk about your journeys. So let's get into your journeys. Tell us a little bit brief. We'll start with you, Danny, on how it all began for you. What made you want to get into this game?
That's a mad question. I mean, for me, I've been in and around the business of music, specifically like rap music, black music, digital electronic music, as long as I can remember. It's my home culture, right? So rap, hip hop culture, that's what's going on in my home. My mum was playing rap music when I was a small boy. Do you see what I'm saying? So that's like ground zero for me is rap, hip hop, yeah? My journey into business comes from like every different thing that I've done in my life has always brought me back to the same space. And I think that like one thing for people to know is that wherever you end up in the music business, 9 times out of 10, it's not the place where you intended to get to. You just kind of ended up there. And I think like that's something that reveals itself over and over when we talk to professionals. But my early career in music was as a musician. which I know it's mad. I was talking to Hakeem earlier, and like I know that there are artists and professionals in Manchester here where I live that don't even know that that's what my foundation is. But I was a MC, that's how I started. And I'm talking like the 90s. So by the time I was recording music, putting music out, it was maybe like the year 2000. So my peers are people like Miss Dynamite and Soul Solid Crew, Heartless Crew. They're kind of my peers.
Legends.
Yeah. There's so many layers to it, because even then it was very different to how it is now. So even though we was releasing music, I could list off the things that didn't exist at the time. So like MP3s were new, Apple Music didn't exist, YouTube didn't exist, Facebook didn't exist, Instagram didn't exist. Like any of the tools that as an artist you have at your disposal for free to use didn't exist when I was a musician. So that meant that our approach was very different. Very, very different. So we was like pressing our own records and then getting on the motorway and hitting every city that we could get into, meet people, go club, meet a DJ, find out what radio station they were on and go, yo, we're gonna come see you at the station tomorrow. So it was a very, very different experience in music at that time. Do you get what I'm saying? But I think my experience as a musician lent itself to all of the other things that I kind of learned along the way. So by the time I had a record deal, I never had a manager. So when it was time for me to start getting professional about music and all of those kind of things, it meant that I was negotiating my own deals, I was reading my own contracts. What I didn't understand, I would go and find out. So it meant that I was my own agent, my own manager, and if I could be those things for myself, I could also be those things for other artists coming up. So eventually, over the next kind of 10 years plus from that, I might have ended up I've worn so many different hats: promotion, owning nightclubs, running nightclubs, promoting, managing artists, developing talent, like so many different things. And all of the skills within are transferable, you know?
Totally.
Yeah, all of the skills within are transferable. So, and there's no straight line. It's like a mad like bowl of spaghetti. Like you just asking me now, oh, what's your journey? Like it's mad. I can't unpick it.
And that's why, and that's what I love about the journey, is we all start off somewhere with an aim, but like you said, we wear so many hats and we learn so much along the way that's now led you to where you are, and you're probably.
But that
not
hasn't
finished.
changed.
Exactly.
That hasn't changed. Like if you talk to anybody in the room, all of them do more than one job in their own artist career or in their own professional career. Do you know what I'm saying? Like loads of the musicians or any musicians in the room, some of you are your own graphic designers, you're using Canva to make your artwork, you're your own social media manager, you're editing your stuff on CapCut or on InShot. You're doing 10, 15 different jobs, wearing 10, 15 different hats just to get across what you do. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't think that will change really for like entry level business.
I totally agree with you. Parris, you've had a diverse career working with major labels. You're now at TikTok. Tell us a little bit about where it all began for you.
I was like really young, and I come from a very creative, my mum's very creative and my dad is more like business strategy. So I'm kind of like a literal mix of like them on that side. Like
Good mix.
Yeah, one side is like super creative, and I was always like same thing, like always around musicians. Like I'm from North London, so like everybody in my ends was rapping and, you know, singing and everything. Like same thing, it's like it's your culture in it, you're around it all the time, you step out the door, you go here, you go there. So for me, I was actually at uni and I was studying sports science, so like nothing to do with like music whatsoever, but obviously Caribbean family, they were like, get that degree. So I was there, and then just the friends that I was around and everything else, I loved what they were doing creatively, and we'd be in the studio, but they could never apply the strategy to what they were doing, and they couldn't like get it out, and it was just staying in the ends, or maybe like a couple other people might go out and might do a few shows. And so for me, it was, I had that strategy sort of like sitting on my brain, or I'd be like, why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? So when I was like 18 and a half, I decided to set up my own PR and promotions company and like just start helping out like the people that are around me. And one of those people that I started helping out at the time, it was just literally just me and him in like my uni dorm room. And then Sony Music reached out to us and were like, we want to do a A&R meeting. And we were like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. Like, number one, what's A&R? Like, number two, like, we had, like, no idea. We were just, like, I was just hitting up, like, blogs and, you know, hitting up, like, people that I knew in the industry, like, obviously, like, Jamal, like, RIP, like, SBTV and stuff, like, all my people. So I was like, can we just put this music out? Can we just promote this music? Can you put this on the website? And so when we got that email, we were like, what the hell? So me and him, like, rocked in there, like, 18 years old, not a clue in the world. And we're just like, okay, like, what do you want? And they were like, we want to offer you a record deal. Like, we love this music. We want to hear more music. And we had to, like, get a manager. We had to get a lawyer. We had to sort everything out, like, super quickly. And then from there, that's where I kind of had more understanding of the music business side of things. And they were like, look, when you finish uni, like, you've done all this yourself so far. You should look at, like, an internship or whatever. And I was like, oh, maybe, like, my mum's gonna kill me if I don't get a proper job. Like, and so then carried on, was doing my business. My business at the time was making money while I was in uni, so my degree kind of was like, okay, I just need to get it done to get it over and done with. And by the time I left uni, or was leaving uni, I applied for one internship at Sony Music. And my mum was like, yeah, what are you doing? Like, apply for some more jobs. Like, we need something going on here. And I was like, no, I've got a feeling. Like, I think it's gonna be all right. And I finished uni in the July. And then I started Sony Music as a promotions intern in the September or October. And from there, I grew from an intern into senior management over the span of like six years, it's nearly 7 years. And the journey has continued, so. I
just love it. Big ups. John, you've been a part of the music scene since the early days of pirate radio with DNA 106.7 FM and Magic 90.2 FM. Tell us about your journey into radio.
Right. I mean, if I can remember. Okay, so it's interesting actually, Fallacy mentioned Miss Dynamite. So my journey into music's come through my passion for hip-hop culture. Take it back before London. When I was 17, I put a night on at 10 Bar on Tariff Street here with two DJs, DJ Semtex and Madface, who were leading the Manchester hip-hop community. And I used to make beats as well with another artist, and we were called Warp Minds. After that, Semtex got me on Frontline, and there was a guy called Pete Waterman Studios, and he wanted to sign us with a guy called Johnny J. And we didn't really like what they were offering at the time. My journey into radio came because of the barriers that existed. So at the time, you couldn't get access to recording studios. Like now, everybody can do it. You can do it with GarageBand on your phone. You can do it on your laptop. Back then, you needed to know people that had studios, and there was a studio at the bottom of Deansgate, incredible, big as this room, wooden floors, loads of different amps and mixers and stuff like that. So we met in there, and they were saying, we want to do this with you guys, but that's not what we were, and we weren't interested in it. And that really started to reveal how much control labels and media platforms had, and an incestuous relationship between them, the two. So they could control the whole talent pipeline. They could actually decide who was going to be released and actually make it into a label deal. And that just wasn't what we were interested in. I'm a skateboarder, I still skateboard to this day. I grew up doing graffiti art, so when I went down to London, obviously I was quite active doing track sides. Got in with a crew which was called TBF, which is one of the main North London crews, Act and Slam. And from that, we just got into the whole culture. So this is like late 90s. We set up a pirate radio station in Edgware Road, and then as it happened, we were trying to use these microwave links, high frequencies links that stop you getting nicked. And basically, yeah, it was a way to dodge the police. And we reached out to this radio station, which was Magic, DJ on there, Mystic Matt, destructive one. And yeah, they just kind of like were like interested in, you know, what we were trying to do, helped us out. So I started working with Magic. So as an engineer, basically I'm quite small, so they could put a little blue nylon rope around my waist and they could lower me down to lock a transmitter in
No
in
way.
an air shaft. Yeah, about 20 floors up. So they would hang me down, and I'd do that, and I kind of built my reputation amongst the team because I was nocturnal as a graffiti artist, and I was good at climbing from that side of it, and that's how I got into it. So, but what kind of happened through that is we started to see how the radio station was linked to the raves. So, end of 90s, Trident, it's the police initiative against gun crime, they basically stopped garage in the central London because of the violence, and it moved out to Romford, so your raves had to be in Essex on the edge of London. And we basically, as a radio station, were doing these raves. There was 2,000 people coming a Friday night, and then that's sort of like where I got full understanding of the culture. I remember Miss Dynamite came out and Roger pulled out the microphone and said, "Potty mouth," like that 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks later, she blew up, and they were well gutted. But it was sort of like that real hotbed of raw talent, and so I just brought that back up to Manchester, the whole way of running the station and the whole culture, and that's what I've been doing for the last
So you
24
literally
years.
took what you learned in London and you brought it back up here.
That's it, yeah.
Love that. Lady Ice, your appearance on BBC's The Rap Game UK brought you into the spotlight, but where did it begin for you?
Right, so like I said, at a tender age, I got into music, I liked English, so started to get the envelopes, write rhymes down and whatnot with a pencil. And then I went to a local studio in Moss Side. I don't even know if it's there now, but they had like the booth was in the cupboard and the speakers and everything else were in the living room where we was able to like mix and master and whatnot. And that's where I kind of learned to mix and master. So I was with like about 10 guys, 10 man, me on my own. But I'm short now, I'm about 5'2.5". Back then I was like 3 foot, probably 2.5. But yeah, so kind of put 50p together. We were all getting on one song, 10 of us, 11 of us, sending it around our school and whatnot. And that's where it kind of started, and everyone kind of started to drop off. Had families and so forth, and then I just was like, you know what, this is my passion, and I know that this is where I want to be, and I want to take it to heights that I believe I can. So I started to learn the business side of music, which is knowing what, how, where, and why really. So where my money's going, where it's coming from. What rooms I need to be in, who I need to speak to, who I need to be around, who I need to associate with. And that was based off like people telling me things that didn't really come to fruition. And I thought, why not like take my baby serious, because I see my music as my baby, and not put my full soul trust in someone else. For me personally, I felt like that. I felt, you know what, let me deal with this myself, and then I can only blame me. So I said, you know what, let me learn the business side. So when I started to get into rooms like, let's say, BBC Radio 1 Extra, yes, I know like DJ Target can holler at him or Tiffany Calver, but I was making relationships with the producers, because ultimately they're the music deciders. So I gathered this massive database, started to do my own campaigns. I learned to contract write as well. I studied the marketing side of it, the algorithm, certain things like that to try and just help myself and just know exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And then I went into TV, which is the Rap Game UK, which gave me a lot of exposure to be able to steer my ship better than I did before. And since then, I've been doing a lot of TV work, whether abroad, here, music work, being played on BBC Radio 1 Extra, BBC 6, and that just came from me just being so focused and so entwined in what I'm doing to know that this is what I want to do and this is where I need to be. And when my friends were going out partying, I had my blind shut recording because I knew that I needed to stay focused and this was the time to do it. So yeah, like when it came to like even labels, so I learned to obviously manage myself within all that. And then I was representing myself, like you said. I was in rooms with Sony, representing myself, and they're like, this little skinny girl, this little short skinny girl in here, like representing herself in boss mode, and I felt like I needed to just do that. I needed to understand it, and that's what I will preach to other people coming up and my peers, that it's important to know exactly what you do in the business side of things. It's just ultimately so important, because some people, as musicians, they focus merely on the creative side, and yes, it's important to do that because you need to get that perfected. However, when let's say your manager leaves or your label leaves, where do you go? Do you know how to steer your ship? Do you know how to navigate your career? And I never wanted to be in that position. I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what was going on. So, yeah.
I love that, and I love what you said about building your database. About 10 years ago, I got into the BBC as a receptionist, and I literally spent every day knowing that I was going into radio, and that was hustling, building my network on that reception, getting the artists, connecting with them. I was on a small community radio station at the time, promoting parties, and it's so important to build your database. Traveling as well, getting out of your environment. I cannot preach that enough. I get a lot more love in the States than I do in the UK, so that's another thing. But yeah, loved what you said there.
Thank you.
Shanti, you write for GRM Daily, Clash Music Magazine. Is it magazine or music? Yeah, music. I thought I got that wrong. Tell us about you. Where did it all begin, and when did you find a love of writing specifically?
Sorry, babe. So I studied English at university, English sociology. I planned to get into publishing, just straight book publishing, because I loved reading when I was younger. But similar to like a lot of the guys on stage, I grew up around music when I was younger. My dad was a DJ. My mum loved music. Other members of my family done music as well, so I always had that passion. So I was in like my 3rd year of uni, and I decided to just start a blog, and it was just like I might do my summer songs at that moment, as if anybody cared. But I thought, why not? Let me just put them out there, do a couple controversial pieces. And then somebody from, funny enough, because now I'm at GRM, but somebody from Link Up TV reached out to me, and they said, do you want to just come to us as an events writer? So like go to events, cover them for us. I said, why not? So I done that for a bit, and then I realized it might be something I want to take and do long term. And then, yeah, reached out to GRM, made that switch. Then I started freelancing at places like New Wave, and Clash came quite recently, to be fair, like in the last couple of years. I kind of felt like I wanted to challenge myself on a different platform. Like we love the GRMs and the link-ups and stuff, but there's so much more.
So important as well.
Yeah, there's so much more to black music and music in general than just rap. We love rap, but there's so many other genres. There's neo soul, there's R&B, there's alternative. So I wanted to try my hand at tapping into those genres. And yeah, that's kind of been the journey so far. Like, it's funny that I feel like a lot of people on stage here have worked in radio in some capacity, and that's what I do separately as well. So the writing has kind of brought me to that, and now, yeah, I'm just in the little music sphere.
Beautiful, I love that. I know that we've all had some hardships. It hasn't been an easy road. I particularly want to talk about the struggles. I remember being 25 and someone very high up in music telling me that I'll never make it as a radio presenter because of my age. And that was 25, and I was like, huh? And you know, you get people doubting you all the time. Tell me, let's go with you, Shanti. What struggles have you sort of faced in establishing yourself as a credible voice in music journalism?
I'd say in today's society, in the music space, I think a lot of stuff is to do with kind of who you know and having what seems like numbers behind you. So when I was first getting started, it did feel like there was a few barriers to entry, just in terms of people might be like, oh, well, how many followers do you have? And things like that, in terms of like writing for platforms. And it felt like I had to sell myself a lot and really show people what I could do, as opposed to them just like taking in my portfolio and things like that. So I felt like that was hard. Like I said, being like a small little 5 foot girl. It doesn't necessarily help. It kind of, people just feel like, oh, how old are you? Like, what's going on? Do you know what you're talking about? So that was something as well. But I feel like with the confidence and when you know what you're doing, when you have the receipts to show for it, yeah, kind of shut people up.
Love that. Lady Ice, what challenges have you faced specifically as a female artist in this rap game?
Ooh, I would say because the kind of genre I do is quite male dominated, so I would say a lot of masculine energy, feeling a bit unwelcome, and feeling a bit overlooked at times in my space. So I feel like those are the challenges I've kind of faced, and also being a black woman in the industry as well. I faced a lot of challenges, and I just stay resilient, really. I know I've got a deep passion for it, and I know where I can take it, and yeah, I just continue loving it, and yeah, putting it out there.
Keep going. Keep going. Danny, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you faced when trying to establish and maintain cultural partnerships?
Do you know what? Like, if you are in the business of entertainment, culture, brands, like, problems are your job.
True.
Like, problems are your job, you know? Like, you have to be very resilient and you have to welcome problems, because that's how we validate who we are in the space. A lot of my work has been about problem solving for companies that have no cultural understanding, that are trying to tap into street culture, streetwear, niche things, skateboarding, electronic music, whatever it is. They got no experience of who we are. Yeah, there's a problem in there for them to solve. It's my job to unpack that and undo the problems. Do you see what I'm saying? So problems are like I don't suffer them, I create them. Yeah, as well. That's the other thing, is that a lot of the time we're also turning up to these spaces. So I'll give you an example. Like, last year was hip hop's 50th anniversary, right? And all of the brands that I've been working with for maybe the past 10, 15 years, from food and beverages all the way through to the digital platforms, not one of them picked up the phone and said, yo, D, do you want to pitch for this thing? Because it's a hip hop thing and it's your space. They were all operating with larger agencies that were just mainly like either big agencies or other like white professional agencies, and none of them thought, let's chat to the hip hop organization, because it's just how it was. That means it's my job to go and like knock on the door and say like, look, you have a problem, I'm here now, like, let's work this out. So my thing is like, it's always about kicking doors down. It's always about backdooring it as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, going, if you can't get in through the front, get in through the back. Like, that's just been my mentality in delivering this kind of work, is that, nah, like, we have to be the problem. Like, if Havana Club or Bacardi or any of these rum brands come to talk to us about doing work, my response always is like, well, we need to talk about transatlantic slavery first, and then we'll decide whether we want to work with you.
Wow.
Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah? So it's like this thing about like having problems, yo, create problems, be messy. Like, because all of these people are messy, you know? Like, not all of them got their shit together neither. Do you get what I'm saying?
It's funny you say that, because my next question was, how do you navigate the balance between commercial success and staying true to cultural roots? But you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's no point in... This business is built on authenticity. It's just built on authenticity, and it's me being who I am and where I'm from. I don't know everything. I don't have the answers for everything. You know, even like a situation like this, I was talking to Hack before. I'm going to go off topic now, but it's your job to bring me back, innit? I'm going to go off topic. I was talking to Hack before, and I was like, why do we have a situation where the audience, are asking us here about how to get into industry, when like you lot are the industry? Do you get what I'm saying? So we're in a place now, like, say if like J Faith busts and his thing goes mad viral, someone in your department's getting in touch with him. Do you get me? Like, it's on, like, you guys are the industry. You have all the answers that we don't have. Do you get me? So that being a problem, creating problems, being disruptive, that's how I solve problems.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I absolutely love that. PARRIS, tell us a bit about your personal struggles on your journey, and also Tell us about an encounter when trying to break, say, a new artist on TikTok that you faced that's been a little bit difficult.
Personal struggles. I'll be real, like, I guess when I first started, it was very much like similar to what we're talking about here. It's like, you know, you walk in a room, people have their perceptions of who you are when you're first in there, and, you know, when you're in, you know, the labels or the big agencies and those big companies, more time there's not enough black people in there, let alone enough black women. You're surrounded by like older white guys that have worked there for the last 40, 50 years. Who are just furniture. They're just there at this point, and they think they know what's going on, and they don't. And they want to know what's going on, but they also are uncomfortable with the fact that anybody that might remotely look like me is in the room in the first place. So it's like a bit of a catch-22, right? But for me, like, I always grew up quite like confident. I always say what's on my mind. I always try and point out if something doesn't feel right or something feels wrong or it doesn't feel authentic. So I think that ended up just being my superpower, is that I'm just like pretty direct and pretty honest about that, because, you know, my mum was always like, just say how you feel. Like, if other people don't like it, it's down to them, it's not down to you. So that was always kind of, for me, always stayed with me. So the difficulties that I've faced maybe were more at the beginning, but now I'm in a fortunate enough position that I've been doing this long enough that, you know, people want me in a room or people require a meeting from me, and I'm able to share the knowledge that I had coming up. And not only that, but the people that I grew up with and my peers and whatnot, I'm their representation in a room where we have no representation. So there's a lot of respect there on that side. And then being in those buildings, getting to know the presidents, getting to know the vice president, getting to know this person, that person, from the janitor all the way up to the president, that gives you a different level of respect also. So I kind of feel like I'm a bit of like a middleman, where I'm able to, you know, code switch when I need, or be
So
in the
important.
end. So yeah.
No, I think it's important to
It's
adapt.
important in some cases, I can't lie.
100%.
Yeah, it's important. No, I hear you though, I hear you. Like, but yeah, I think in some instances, like, just, and when I say code switch, not even to make other people feel comfortable, but to help other people understand the language that you're talking. Yeah, almost like more of a translator in that instance. So, so yeah, like, I guess like difficulties that probably everybody would share on this panel, but, you know, I was born unbothered and probably remain unbothered. So
I love that.
It's one of them. But in terms of breaking an artist on TikTok and difficulties there, I think the difficulty with you know, breaking artists on TikTok, or like virality as a whole, is that people talk about it like it's this like commodity in which you can like buy, or just like, I want it to go viral, and this just, or there's this right formula, it's going to go viral. It's not the case whatsoever. Like, and I spend all day, every day being like, there is no formula to go viral. If it connects with people, if it's authentic, if you're consistent, if you're who you are, if it's a great piece of content, or it's a great song, or it's whatever, that will connect with people. And once it connects with your first pool of 200 people, it will connect with the next pool of 1,000 people and 10,000 people, and it'll keep going, right? But at the end of the day, you have to back it up. You have to be consistent with it. You have to, you know, have a plan. Going viral is like, you know, it can happen any day of the week at any single time on anything. But if you don't have something to back it up, or you're not a artist that has a longer term plan, and you were just looking for a viral moment, then what happens when you get there? Like, that's it. Like, it can't just be that. So I think that's the difficulty in more trying to help people understand that virality isn't something that should be chased. If it happens, it's a great tool that then you use to your advantage to continue your career. So I think that's the main thing, people chasing virality, or do you know what? Shadow banning. Everyone thinks they're shadow banned, and it's literally not a thing. That's like my most difficult conversation on dating.
I'm the worst with TikTok.
Yeah, I'm like,
so
it's not a thing.
I'm gonna need some advice later. I like what you said there. It was almost like you said, what I gauged from it was work till you're valuable.
100%.
And that is so important.
Yeah.
I'm someone, you know, as I said, I started at the reception. I learned to produce radio. So I learned my craft inside out to the point that nobody could tell me nothing. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
Nobody could tell me anything because I knew I worked to my value.
100%.
And that's also so important.
Just on that point there, like even I'm giving like the nutshell version of my like exec journey, right? Like in labels and stuff. But even Shantae said like about we've all worked in radio in some capacity. I worked in radio. I learned how to radio produce. Like same as Ice. It was about studying everything. I learned every single person's job in the label. So now when I'm managing an artist, I go in there and if they're telling me, oh yeah, we ain't got no DSP pitching and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, you should have done this 4 weeks ago. Yeah, exactly. Like I know what you should be doing. So it's like exactly what I said is like, if you study everything, nobody can chat shit to you.
Study your craft is so, so important. John, how do you deal with competition from larger, more established stations?
Not really that interested in them, to be honest.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, so we just do our own thing. I guess, I mean, there's a lot of problems and challenges for grassroots artists coming into the industry because it's a very confusing landscape to where to start off because there's so many tools nowadays. So obviously when we got involved in radio, we were going up against the man and it was about being able to share dub plates, people going, getting them cut, that was the track. We'd play it on a set of turntables. If someone hadn't lined up a next record, it would be dead air. Now obviously everything's digital. You know, a lot of people can share stuff. Things can get sent to stations. People don't even need to necessarily have the same level of involvement in a community. They don't necessarily need to have the people around them to help them to have grown in the same way. But that also, I think, means that there's a lot of people out there who've got no integrity that can also be involved in misleading people and misshaping an understanding of what it's about. So for me, it always comes back down to hip-hop and the values of hip-hop because it was about the have-nots. And it's been mentioned a few times on this panel now, it's self-belief. So in terms of going up against big stations, to directly answer your question, we've got belief that actually those stations, they don't have a direct connection to local communities and they don't do the meaningful work. So like I said at the start of this panel, we work with young people. We don't just actually take what we can to kind of create ourselves a role or a job to try to connect ourselves and be seen to be with these big brands or big opportunities. We work directly with the kids. So I grew up around the gangs in South Manchester. I was very closely connected with a lot of them. Direct experiences of some of the misery that's connected to it. So our USP is that we actually work to improve the lives of the young people coming through doing the music, but also actually to be able to then be the positive role models to other musicians or other artists or designers or fashion designers, so that the values that were originally created in the culture that everybody is now a part of and has built on, which is hip-hop that came out of the Bronx, which was about the have-nots, DIY entrepreneurship, self-belief, making something out of nothing. That's still there, and it didn't necessarily mean that you had to worry about the big picture. So you talk about the big stations, because it wasn't for them, it isn't for them. And I think because things are connected so digitally, people put this big barrier in front of themselves sometimes and worry about that, and it's not about that. It's about enjoying the process, being true to yourself, and then the community around you, being important to the community in ways that a track which might be hyped for 6 months and go on an advertising campaign and then be dead doesn't really matter, do you know what I mean? Because you've got legacy and connection in a different way that carries your career more meaningfully through.
No, I totally relate. And the reason I asked that is because my particular journey was starting on a smaller hip-hop station where I learnt my craft. And then no one was letting me into any of the bigger stations. So I went off to America. I was a hip-hop head myself. I shot a documentary for HBO in the South Bronx on the evolution of hip-hop. And I built my network outside of the UK. And then I got on a little station called BBC Radio London, where I was making the teas and I was learning I was assistant producing and learning how to produce. And no one was then giving me a shot. And finally, when I got my own show, I then wanted more. I wanted the 1 extras, I wanted the capital extras, and no one was letting me in. So I decided to bring all of my network and everyone that I had made from being on the reception, being in New York, being in LA, and I started to make noise on my own little station.
Weird.
And what happened then is I had a producer a couple of months ago take me to one side and say, from 1 extra, and said, "You've become our competition now. Little old you on BBC Radio London that no one used to listen to has become our competition because you have done the work and you're doing the producer role, you're doing the assistant producer role, and now you've got the contacts direct." So that's why I asked you that, because everyone looks at the smaller stations and they think, it's not going to do nothing for you, but what you learn there is invaluable, and the connections you can make. And also, like I said earlier, coming out of your environment, connecting with people stateside, connecting with people in different countries, bringing them onto your shows, so important. So thank you for that. Right, highlights. Let's get positive. Danny, tell me about a highlight, a memorable highlight in your career, or a personal highlight.
You know what? There's so many, and do you know what? Listening to you speak just then, I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you one from my career as a musician, and one from my career like currently. Yeah. So hearing you speak about radio like that so passionately and talk about 1 extra and stuff is interesting, because I'm one of the artists that switched 1 extra on, like hit the on button. It was me, Miss Dynamite, a group called Big Brothers. If any of you's old enough to remember Big Brothers.
Tune, they had some tune.
Yeah, it was me, Miss Dynamite, Big Brothers, DJ Semtex, and I can't remember some of the others. Some of the other groups ain't even around no more, right? And there was 5 parties across the whole UK. Glasgow, Sheffield, London, Nottingham, I think. I can't remember where the other one was. But that for me was a big deal, because see how you was talking about your journey? 1 extra in its very beginning was radical, you know? You know, like now, like a lot, you look at 1 extra like it's the institution, and that's the place where you have to bus if you want to bus radio, and it's commercial, it's seen as commercial, it's seen as... At that time, it was radical, because all the artists on the station, the BBC knew if they wanted black music to stick in England, they had to go to the pirate stations. And all of the talent, day one roster, were all local club promoters, pirate DJs. They were poaching people from like Rinse FM, Cool FM, places like that, because they were culture first. They were closer to the street. They were closer to what's going on. And that was their value. That foundation of like cultural value is what built 1 extra. So I think being a part of that journey, do you know what I mean, and being involved in the original purple banner marketing and all that sort of stuff, for me was like, it's a really big deal, like in my career, to get to hit the on switch in that sense. Because before then, black music programming on the radio, and John will probably be able to back this up better, but black music programming on the radio, even if you're talking in terms of hip hop, there was maybe only 8 hours a week of rap music on the radio.
Yeah.
And without pirate stations, there would be no culture in the street, do you know what I mean? And that's why the BBC knew that they had to bring that into 1 extra with them if it was going to be successful. So I suppose that story is an important one for me, but it also, even generationally, backs up what you've just had to say about your journey inwards. Do you know what I mean? That's still the way. Yeah, so that's one thing. The second thing, I don't know, I think just having a business that has, you know, this year I think will be the 9th or 10th year of TPG as a business. And it didn't start out as a marketing agency. It started out doing what we've always done, which is create opportunities for people who aren't served to be served, whether that's in music business, music industry, stage sharing, all of those kind of things. And it morphed and it became a marketing and advertising company. So for me, like, I had to make myself an exec. I made myself an exec by doing exec level work. Do you know what I mean? Like, and like this business hit its first 7-figure year like 3 years ago. And it's like those things for me, just coming from my background are big achievements. Do you get what I'm saying? So I think they're the big achievements for me. Look, going the distance in a business that I didn't really know nothing about, and using all of those musical background skills as the foundation for it, they're my achievements.
Would you say that there's been a most rewarding project or partnership that you've worked on?
Project? When you say rewarding, yeah?
Like, that's personal to you, that you're like, yes, I'm so happy I worked with that brand, or I'm so happy we...
Brand-wise, there aren't that many of them that I don't leave a project with like a bad taste in my mouth about it. Like, hardly any. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's some brands like, we thought, yo, this is the brand that we want to work with. We're getting a project with them, and I come away going like, I'm never wearing that brand again. Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes you feel...
Is there one that stands out, basically?
Oh, there's loads. There's loads of them. There's loads of them. Like, I'll never work with Pew again, ever. Edit that one out. But nah, don't, whatever, innit? But like, yeah, there's loads for so many reasons, but it's always comes down to how they treat the talent, how they treat the artists that are involved. And like, they need us. They can't do nothing without us. Do you know what I mean? So, and it also, that's why when you were talking about code switching before, like, I'm passionate about not code switching at all.
Even if it means connecting to someone.
Fuck those people. No, like seriously, like for example, like I met an executive at Google last year. We did the Google Executive Summit, and it was just us and her. She was the only black person on the team, and like the way that my team works, if you're the only black person on the team at a brand, I know you're eating shit. I know you're dealing with stuff. Yeah, so that means it's my job, because my business. Everybody on my business is global majority on purpose with no excuses, no apology, right? Always have employed global majority people. And we pulled her aside and said to her, listen, we're with you, you know. We're with you. Like, whatever your problems are, we're your team now.
I love that.
Yeah? But you know what she did? She turned around, she said, nah. Like, and she started speaking differently. She told me she had elocution lessons. She said she'd been for elocution. She said she's committed to the code switch, because that's what made her boss as an executive, right? And then she works for Google. Now, my thing is like, that's cool for you, because that's what you've had to do to get through. But say when somebody else in the room turns up as their authentic self, with their own hair, with their own accent, they're just them. They turn up in their own, whatever it might be, they might turn up in some traditional, authentic clothing, whatever it is. That process of code switching has made it harder for that person to turn up as their authentic self, because other executives think that black excellence only presents itself as a code switch. It only presents itself as living up to European standards, and that's not what it is.
I hear you. I totally hear you. I mean, in the sense of where I was going with connecting with people, I mean, you know, my background's I'm a RADA trained actress, and I always felt it was important to meet people at how you meet them and connect with them on some level. I wouldn't necessarily call it code switching, but what I must say is me at the BBC 10 years ago to me at the BBC now, and the boundaries that I have and who I am, I show up as me, authentically. 100%. But that's because I've had to earn my value. That's because I've had to get to a point where they almost need me. So that's why, do you know what I mean? But I hear you in terms of not hiding who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, your hair is your hair, your name is your name. Like, I met somebody before, and they told me their name, and then they shortened it. They said, yeah, just call me Jay. And I was like, nah, like, your name's your name. Like, the colonizers have to taste it the most. Like, make them say the whole name. No, true story.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think turning up as yourself is the most important thing to do, because if you're bothered about access, it's the people that are coming behind you. When they turn up as their authentic self, they're going to find it harder to access executive level when you're pretending to be someone else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Thanks.
So, yeah.
A round of applause. Stay true to you. Yeah. PARRIS, personal highlight. Let's begin with that. Have you got a personal highlight that stands out?
Probably like quite a few, to be fair. Like, I think probably the first one that comes to mind is in 2018, I won a Rising Star Award from the Music Week Awards.
Huge.
So that was like a big moment. Like, that was cool.
Yeah, round of applause.
Thank you very much. That was cool. And that was cool because at the time, in record labels and in those spaces, like, I was pretty much one of one. Like, I'm a black, queer, non-binary music executive. There's not many of us out here. Like, do you know what I mean? It's one of them, like, so I hear what you're saying. You have to turn up as yourself, and I always turn up as myself. But I think also just in those spaces, getting to be yourself and having that opportunity to be yourself comes with, like, you know, the making, the experience, the making yourself, like you said, building your value and all those type of things there. So at the end of the day, you can turn around and go, this is me, and there's a whole bunch of us outside, and we're all coming in, and we're all going to be ourselves. But yeah, I think probably winning that award, and then I think just in general, like, a personal highlight for me is I've always maintained my entrepreneurial spirit, even though I've always worked in corporate businesses. Like, I'm very much like, all right, if I'm heading out for a meeting, I'm heading out for a meeting. Like, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm not going to be in the office. I'm going to go meet this artist here, or do this thing, or manage artists on the side, and all these different things, because probably just like an innate problem with authority, but also just like, I just want to maintain that, because I think that's how you remain true to who you are, and also how you can shift things quicker. Like, it's all well and good being in these buildings. I love it. And I'm very much also a believer of, you know, changing things from the inside out. Because I think that needs to happen as well as us disrupting on the outside. There needs to be disruption on the inside. But I think, you know, it's important that we don't fit into these boxes that people want us to fit into when it comes to coming into these corporate spaces. We definitely need to, like, just maintain what it is that we do and be able to connect dots. And sometimes that doesn't always fit in a box of, like, oh, you're a marketing person, oh, you're a promotions person, oh, it's like, no, I just connect dots and I make things happen and help people where I can help people. And that is the thing that is the purpose. There are a lot of people running around without purpose, and that's important to have that.
I love that. And what you said, actually, it made me think about what Danny just said. And I think what's also important is, I mean, we're going a little bit off topic here because we're talking highlights, but knowing who you're dealing with, knowing your character. And a few people may disagree with me. I love Robert Greene's stuff, 48 Laws of Power. I'm big on that. I'm big on the people that I meet. The first rule is never outshine the master. A lot of people might not like that, but if you work in the corporate world and you're entering, you have to understand it. You have to know your place and earn your craft and you know, as I said, earn your value. So just going back to that, can you tell us about a specific success story where an artist's career was significantly boosted through your work at TikTok?
Oh my goodness.
Anyone in particular that's
at
or
TikTok?
a few?
There's been a few, I think, at TikTok. Like, there's been a few at TikTok. I think one of the highlights, or a couple of the highlights that tie back into personal highlights is, so when I first started at TikTok, we launched #rap, which was an initiative to make sure that we were highlighting rap music on TikTok in the way that it needed to be highlighted, and content, and also allowing rappers to know that they can make content and it doesn't have to be singing and dancing and being funny. It's like just authentic content on TikTok. So TikTok fits into your campaign strategy and things like that. So we started #rap, and since we started it, it now has nearly 200 billion video views on platform. And that includes like artists, anybody you can think of, Sench to AJ Tracy to Digger. Like, we actually launched it with Digger D at the time. So that was definitely a personal highlight. And within that, we launched a 3-part series called Oi TikTok, which is basically like a live stream, old school, like rap show. Like, it was like a TV show, but it was streamed on TikTok. And we worked with artists at the time, like Pot Paper, Miss Banks, like everybody who was doing stuff that was amazing anyway. But it was the change on platform and seeing them shift to making more content. Like, I don't know if anybody follows Pot Paper on TikTok, but he's fucking hilarious. Like,
really?
Yeah, he's really funny. And it's a thing. Like, we're getting to explore other sides of artists, like in what they do. Like, he does great voiceover content and he's just funny. Like, AJ Tracy, even to what we were talking about earlier, AJ Tracy does gardening content. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, shows off his perfumes and shit. Like, so you get to see different sides to artists that I think maybe we're a bit hesitant about TikTok. But again, because I'm a face in there that they can trust and can talk to them on a level and stuff, I get when they come in and they're like, you know, nobody wants to see Little Sims dancing on TikTok. So what can we do that's authentic to her? So I think, just overall, just being able to explain and translate why TikTok can work for artists of all different genres in all different spaces, without them having to conform to something or add another thing on top of what they're already doing that isn't comfortable to them or they fit into. I think that's probably been like the personal highlight. I don't think I could like really, maybe, actually no, do you know one, it took me 2 years to get Stormzy to use TikTok.
No
So the day he
way.
actually posted that day in the life, bruv, I was blowing up his phone like, thank you, bro. It's taken me 2 years. Like, and then he did the sickest TikTok and it went crazy. And I was like, okay, so that was definitely like, that was one, but it took 2 years and now he like spends all day reposting stuff on TikTok.
I love that. I absolutely love that. John, can you discuss a significant milestone or achievement that you're proud of linked to Unity Radio?
Can I give you three?
Of course you can.
First one's very brief. That's just getting the Ofcom license. So
Big deal. Big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Certainly, I used to play State Property on Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock. On 106, and so we came up playing really raw music, and then the whole shift to try to be able to represent black music across Manchester and actually support my peers who were really pioneering it at the time, the likes of Broken English, Digit, and that was obviously Ricochet, Chaos, people like that who, you know, they were building these audiences, and then we had an opportunity to go legal, so you could put your head above the parapet, they could be visible, and they could then start, you know, promoting and connected to the clubs, because a lot of people nowadays won't realise this with digital streaming, but when the DTI couldn't actually find a radio station, if you had a club night on, they'd go to the club and they'd shut it down or find the club. So they were trying to remove any income streams for the DJs. And obviously the DJs were promoting the artists, and those artists weren't able to get deals. So it was this whole ecology thing. So when we got the license, it sort of shifted that, and it was a real good moment. Second thing is seeing some of the talent that comes through that actually listens, because I was fortunate enough to be mentored by BBC executive Ray Paul, who...
Big up, Ray.
Yeah. Who, exactly, you're just saying you've got to know your place when you're learning your craft. And Fallacy mentioned the importance of one extra. So when he came and we was working up here 3 days a week for a year, it was just like hanging off his every word. You know, like being able to get him up here, because a lot of people don't know this, but Unity Radio 2010, 2011, 2012, our station was probably the only playlist outside of London that the majors were looking at. I remember Mel Rudder from Atlantic invited me down, and we were sat there up at Knightsbridge, and she was saying, oh yeah, by the way, you know, Salsa Streets, we see that you've just put this young rapper on, this guitar playing rapper, we're going to sign him in January. And we were
Is
like,
this Ed?
Yeah. She said, so she was like, how do you guys come across this? And it was like, so she goes, that's why I wanted to invite you down here to break the news. 3 months later, we won 2 Brit Awards.
Unbelievable. Everyone has a story linked to Ed somehow.
Yeah. But what, that was a success, definitely. Like
Huge.
being able to work with Ray, listen to how to program clocks, a lot of people don't realise this, but one of the most important people in Manchester in music is a guy called Dubsy. Because in between us knowing this theory about how to put music clocks together, you needed to have like formats, and you need to have quality levels. And before that, we were receiving music that was being sent to us, and it hadn't been mixed and mastered. So if you put the music alongside a Beyonce track or a Jay-Z track, it sounded terrible. So how are you going to create a radio station that's got all of these big tracks labels are sending to you? And how are you going to support local artists so that the bigger stations want to hear their music, and that you sound like a commercial output that other people would then advertise with? So we had to push back. So we were hated, absolutely hated, because people would come to a show and we'd just say, nah, sorry, this is the format. And they didn't know that we'd been working with Ray. Do you know what I mean? But you're not going to gas that. This is what the format is. So dealing with a lot of people, and then on the periphery, people who were disruptors, who like to meddle because they don't really know shit, but they want to get in on it. And bottom line is, eventually, we made a system in 2012 where you had to have a release date, and you had to be able to get your music through with a release date so that it matched what was happening with the majors. And then when the majors came looking, and they did quite a few times, I'd give out details to Sony or whoever. Those artists then started going out to London, so that was another success. And then the last success, which I have to say, is you know, the talent that's come through and, you know, helped shape the local ecology. So, you know, very proud of them.
Incredible. What a wonderful job also to like see so many people start at the bottom and then just go to the top. Like, incredible. Lady Ice, let's talk about you and your highlights. Any personal highlights? Pre-rap game and post.
Yeah, I've got a few, but I'll narrow it down. I would say because I care for my mum. She suffers with schizophrenia. And I've done that all my life. And I lost my dad at quite a young age, tragically. So it's just literally been me and her, and my mum doesn't really get out much. And I performed at the O2, and I managed to get my mum out on that day. And when I tell you, the feeling was different. Like, it was a different feeling, the energy. And just imagine being on stage with all these people and then seeing my mum, like, at the very back just staring at me. And yeah, that was definitely one of my highlights. I'll say a second one is just working with brands that I've dreamt of working with. You know what I mean? I opened up for the British Basketball League at the O2 Arena, and that was just phenomenal, like a really phenomenal moment for me. And another one I'd say, like I said, I've gone through some things in my life, and I put a track out because before I was kind of, you know, doing hype music. People see me as colourful, bubbly, but that's just one tone and one mood. And for me, I started to kind of like show my authentic self within my music and be a bit more vulnerable. And I put a track out called No More Secrets. And when I put that track out, I got so many people in my DMs saying, you know, I've been through the same thing. And when I was going through it from a young age, I felt like I didn't have anyone. I felt like the only person who kind of understood was my brother because, you know, he'd been through it with me. And I started to connect with loads of people, and it just made me feel so good, and just like made me feel like I achieved something. Yeah, so that's one that I would say definitely.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's give her a round of applause because that's just touched me. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Shanti, tell us about some personal highlights in your career so far.
Okay, I'll give you guys like one main one. So I don't know if anybody knows, like when Liam Neeson was doing like a press run for a film and he said something very controversial about how he was walking around his area looking for a black guy. Yeah. So I wrote about that for GRM at the time. And it was quite a controversial piece. They don't do too many opinion pieces. So it was like me coming out of my comfort zone, me being able to put my authentic opinion in something, which as a journalist feels good because there's so many like wishy-washy pieces, trying to like fit the house style of whatever platform you're writing for, but that felt like a time I could be very open. And then it happened to catch the attention of a producer at the BBC, and I got invited on One Extra Talks at the time to discuss it all. So that was like a big thing for me because it was my first like public speaking engagement. It was off the back of something I had done myself, and it was true to myself. Like my family got to tune in and hear me on the radio, and that was like a bit of a moment. So yeah, that was one of my main highlights. And I'd say just day to day, just the little wins are good. Like at GRM, I have a platform called Under the Radar, which champions up and coming artists. And like people will email me or DM me, and they'll be so happy just to be included in the playlist or in the editorial pieces. And that's what I do it for. So that, yeah, is a good little highlight on a daily basis.
Love that. Rewarding. Also rewarding. We've got about 5 minutes left, and then we're going to open it up to you guys if you have any questions. But I really want you to just share any words of advice or gems or words of wisdom, anything that you'd like, that you feel that will hold value that someone that's come here today. We got 5 minutes, just noting. All right? Danny, let's start with you.
I would say like, be a problem, be a problem, create noise, be messy. Like, these are the things, like, people tell us that we have to be perfect and brilliant and turn up as the finished article, and that's just, like, really not true. Like, you know, we're the solution to all the problems that businesses have in culture. So just be yourself all the way through.
Love that. Paris.
I'd say always be a student, even if you are the expert in the room, just stay quiet and listen to what other people got to say. You know, you can't be collaborative through being defensive. So if you feel like you have something to stand up for and believe in, do that, but also, you know, listen to other people, allow their opinions to at least marinate with you before you make a decision. And always have a purpose like that underpins everything that you do. Mine usually is like about the betterment and innovation of Black people and Black culture, and that underpins anything that you do. You don't have to fit in like one particular box. So yeah, purpose is super important.
Okay, so that's really interesting that you said that, because I have 3 words that I define a lot of my work by: purpose, authenticity, sustainability. You know, work your purpose out, but then just be authentic, be yourself, and yeah, don't listen to anyone else. You know what I mean? A lot of the times, other people, they make opinions. You know, they're not seeing what you can see, and you know, clearly, if they're going to make opinions, criticize and try to slow you down, then they're never going to take the time to look at your perspective, as what Harris is saying. You know, listening to other people. So just stay focused and yeah, have self-belief.
Amen. ADI.
Yeah, just like what Greenie said, really, purpose, and just live and let live. Embrace the moment, I'd say, because sometimes you can be on the go, you could be, you know, having these wins, achieving and on go, but then you're like, whoa, like what just happened? I feel like it's so important to just embrace the moment, have balance as well. Yeah.
I just say, like, miss yourself with all that, like, try be mysterious and cool and elusive. Just talk your shit. Like, talk your shit and people will listen. As soon as I started doing that, everybody started listening and they started hollering, and I feel like that's really important. Like, just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. Drop a DM. Somebody will answer. Yeah.
Love that. And I would say create your own lane in any way that you can, and all of them knows that just keep going. And also, you know, I work for a corporation, but you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I have the power. The power is in me. And when you realize that, you can lead, but it's also just maintaining that and building it and building those relationships. That's very, very important. So thank you to everyone that sat through all of that. Thank you to my amazing panelists. Thank you for just being authentic, open, and honest and real. We're going to open it up to anyone that has any questions now. For anyone?
First of all, thank you guys. That was amazing. So my name is Jay Faith. I did some performing before, and I'm really glad that I've heard all this amazing advice from all these legendary guys on the stage. Like, there is so much experience here. It's unreal. So my question really is more of a general question. I'm in the middle of promoting a new single called Mr. Nice Guy. It's an amazing track. And I've been away from the music industry for a couple of years. And every time I come back, something changes. There's a different method to release it. You know, there's different algorithms on TikTok and Instagram. And what I want to ask you guys is, if you are releasing a single in 2024, what would be your best strategy to gain traction online and also within the community?
Paris, should we start with you? I hear online, I'm like, that's the one.
I think, okay, if we're talking online, I think making sure that every platform, of course TikTok, but every platform has the right timestamp of music that you want to be on platform. Like, right. Of course, I'm going to talk from a TikTok perspective, but on Instagram Reels as well, they are like powerful and useful on platform. Make sure that the boring admin side of things is really like straight. Yeah. So even things like making sure like your name is tagged properly and things like that, because the thing about being online and promoting something, right, is that what you're doing is creating as many touch points as possible for people to discover you, whether it be here, whether it be in Germany, whether it be in Zimbabwe, wherever it may be, right? But if somebody's going to see something and it's not labeled up properly, or it's on another viral piece of content that they don't know, they need to be able to click and find you. So make sure everything is linked. Make sure your Instagram is in your TikTok bio and your, you know, all of those little things there. Because I think that's such an overrated thing. People are like, basically, how do I go viral? And I'm like, well, you can go viral, but if your stuff isn't linked, no one's ever going to find you anyway. So, or they're going to have to go down a TikTok hole to find you anyway. So I think like just making sure all the admin side of things is straight, making sure your distributor has delivered everything properly. And then in terms of like content strategy, it's about consistency and it's about authenticity. But one thing I will tell you to do, which will be able to help you much longer than what I have time to tell you now, is go onto Google, and this is for anybody who's on TikTok as an artist, type in TikTok Artist Handbook 2024. That will come up, and it's essentially every new feature that we have launched in the last year. It's every method of how to use them, it's where to find them, it's how to use like the photo slide method. And we've got, if you are an artist on TikTok, you can get certified, which is different from verified. You can get certified. Right. That means that TikTok recognizes you as an artist. That means you have access to features such as being able to sell tickets for a show directly from content on TikTok, little things like that, having a music tab, etc., etc. So I think it's just making sure that everything is straight on whatever platform that it is, and then you can kind of plan out content strategy. Just quickly, I don't want to take up too much time. Content strategy, I always say have a skeleton. So say it's like 3 pieces of content a week, and then look at different trends on platform, or maybe random different things you might go through throughout the week, and you flesh out that skeleton. But if you can consistently have 3 pieces of content a week going out, you're good.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
No worries. I just want to say also re-radio. Thank you, Paris. Re-radio, if you're looking for radio play, you're still an independent artist, you haven't necessarily got a plugger, look at your local stations. Look at, you've got BBC introducing. There's a new platform on the BBC called Upload, where you can upload your music on through the website. And then I would also DM these presenters personally or get their email, and you're good.
Amazing. Thank you for that. Thanks.
Hey, my name's Leon. So I'm primarily like a rock and metal guitarist, and I went to university studying music production. But it's literally just me and my mate who couldn't make it today, but it's just us two kind of making our own music together. And I have no kind of family members that are in music or any friends or anything like that. So I was just wondering if you could give advice on, in terms of like how to, places to go to like build connections, or maybe like look for apprenticeships or internships, just so I can get my foot into the door, so I can make music kind of a profession as opposed to just a hobby, if that makes sense.
I was just going to say, like, utilize the tools that you have, like, online, like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Be posting your content out there, seeing what's actually trending, putting it on those sounds and so forth. That's what I would say personally. And then kind of like joining groups as well. There's loads of groups online that you can meet artists from, and then, do it that way, I'd say.
Another thing I would say is going to gigs, connecting with people there. If, you know, getting in with some sort of independent music company and learning your craft and building your connections that way. I always feel like it's not just, like we said earlier, it's not just a straight and narrow. If you want to be an artist, you want to be in music, it's working within the environment and building those connections, coming out of your environment, going somewhere else, maybe going to London, intimate gigs, places where you know people from labels are going to be, that kind of thing would be good.
Like, definitely. And then in terms of like internships, apprenticeships and things like that, like go on like Music Business Worldwide, like go on like Music Week, like go on, literally type in like music jobs 2024, like look for stuff. Because when I started at Sony, I started as an intern, went through the intern program, but every role after that was like a conversation about what I wanted to do, and then the role was created for me. So you, like, exactly like Danny said, where you start is never where you end up. You always end up somewhere else. Just literally just getting out there. But like, these guys are right, like literally gigs and events and all types of things, like look for all of that and just roll up. Even if you're going by on your ones, like you'll build on your confidence. Like, do you know what I mean? You're here today, like your friend couldn't make it. Like, things like this are important, and it might feel like it's only a little thing, but it all matters. Facts.
Cheers, thank you.
Does that answer? Do you have any more questions? You all right?
No,
Can I just add something? There's an artist that I manage, right? I manage 4 artists. 2 of them are visual artists, 2 of them are musicians. Yeah, one of the musicians, he hasn't got a particularly big following online. He doesn't use TikTok. He hates social media. Yeah, he's got about 25,000 followers. Yeah, but the way that his career trajectory is going is based on him being highly engaged with a small group of people. Right. Yeah, he's got his own WhatsApp group. He goes out to gigs, primarily uses Bandcamp. Now, every time he releases some music, and when I say a small group of people, I mean maybe like 5,000 fans, versus he's not trying to be Central C level, yeah? He's going, there's a place in the middle that's good for me. So every time he releases a piece of music, a bundle, a single or an EP, a vinyl, a hoodie, a merch bundle, he's got 5,000 people that are gonna spend £100 with him, that he's highly engaged with, that he talks to, that he's built as a community on his WhatsApp. And that works for him. Do you know what I mean? He's got a 7-figure income as a musician, and he's not focused on trying to bust an algorithm. He's not focused on anything else but his community, and his community first. And that's what really works for him. Some artists in the room might feel like they're not official unless they get a viral hit online on one of the platforms, or unless they're streaming millions of streams. But this is an artist, like, he could just activate something in his WhatsApp group, or he's got a little Facebook group. It's all private, it's all closed, but they share common interest. Yeah. They share values, ethics, morals, all of those kind of things. Do you get me? That's his community that he's built, and it's not dependent on any external factor, third-party platform. It's him. It's as D2C as it can get, kind of thing. Yeah. And I think nurturing and building those things is as valuable as trying to get the buy-in from other wider digital platforms and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. Cheers. Thank you.
No worries.
So just to like spice it up a little bit, final meal, what 3 guests are you bringing with you?
What, final meal?
Yeah, final meal, last supper, what 3 artists or producers or writers, who would your top 3 people be to invite?
Wow, this is mad. Is this
Shall
for
I
me
go?
specifically?
Is it to all of them?
Go across the line.
I'll start. I know mine.
Yeah, go.
Oprah Winfrey, Jay-Z, and Robert Greene. Random as hell. But there you go.
I've got two. I'd say this is just a fan moment, but it would be Janae Aiko, Peace and Love, our music, you know. And then probably somebody super old school, like a Beres Hammond.
Stop.
Yeah. I'll leave mine at 2.
Ooh, my last supper. I don't think artists will be there. Can't
Me?
lie.
Me?
Yeah, you'd be there. Don't worry. Chronics would be one, because I feel like he's just chill. He'll keep me at a level knowing it's my last meal. Stormzy would be one. And who else? Pink.
Good.
Yeah.
You know what? I could answer it, yeah, but like you've got a better question than this, because like you're here for a reason, like music industry, business, like something. Do you get me? Like I can give you the answer, but there must be something else that's more valuable for you to get from the people here on the panel.
No, it's that, because I think that will influence maybe like how you all got here. So it doesn't have to be like an actual artist. It could be like a writer. It just could be someone who you want to ask a question to, someone who's not even here with us now. You might want to get some information from them that technically in the real world we can't get now.
Yeah,
so let's say you chose Michael Jackson. We know he's not here. You're not going to get to meet him. What
is
would you want to ask him?
Is it a business lunch, or am I just hanging out? Because if it's a business lunch, like, yo, put me in front of people that like
No,
I can
it's
learn
just
from.
it's just a 3-course meal. It's just a 3-course meal.
Can't ask him, he's too
and
deep.
Free artists that you would like to invite.
It's not that deep, bro. Which
yeah,
free?
no, it's not that deep. Do you
You're
know
not
what?
invited, actually. Next.
Yeah, sweet.
Oh my days. Mine would be Prince, Bob Marley.
See?
Yeah, that would be hard.
Aw.
And also you could just, we know what we're doing, Bob Marley. But I think Prince, Bob Marley, and I'd probably say Jay-Z, you know? Yeah. I'll probably say Jay-Z at this point.
Dead easy. James Brown, 100, and Premier and Guru.
There you go.
Can I change mine?
Hi, you're right. I'm Yusuf. I run an events company called Raise the Bar, exclusively for rappers. Love that. My question is, as an events company that's starting off very much on the ground with no budget, or next to no budget, we are a CIC, so we're applying for funding and those kind of things as well. But outside of that, how do you balance trying to have a really high quality show with high quality artists, whilst also keeping the people who've never done shows before on the same stage, and being able to pay these artists and give them the value that they deserve? Because, you know, a lot of events companies are very exploitative of artists, and that's not something that I want to do. But we're working on next to no budget, and we're very raw and ready. So it's kind of like trying to find a balance between that. I know ticket sales shares and stuff like that are things, but I know some people hate them, so I'm just trying to figure that out and navigate that space. Yeah. Anyone answer that?
I was going to say the power of prayer, but hold on.
I mean, I would say that be a limited company, not a CIC. Right, okay. So there's a CIC, you're a non-profit. Yeah. So, you know, I get it, like there's money out there and it's, you can fill out a form, some money lands on you, yeah? But actually, yeah, you need to be in a position, if you're talking about growing the way that you want to grow, you might be limited as a CIC. If you want to make money and you want to, do you know what I mean? You'll be able to pay everybody else, but what about you, innit?
Just to come back to that, is there a way that I can keep the thing that I'm doing right now? Because what I do right now is artists coming on their first ever performances, most of them, and then I book a headliner, and then there's an opportunity for a paid set later down the line. Can I keep that as it is and then launch a limited company with a similar brand, or is that going to get too complicated? Do you know what I mean?
It is techie. Yeah. And you know what, like, John is probably the person to talk to here, because, like, I know you've got your different strands, so.
Yeah, okay, so if it's about setting up limited companies, you really do have to think long and hard about how much responsibility that you're going to take on. Yeah. I've worked with a number of different brand startups, and you can very quickly find yourself like really kind of, you know, stretched between them. Yeah. So it's a good question that you've got there. I think when you set up your company, just be really clear on who you want to be on your director's board. You'd agree with that, right? Yeah, that's the most important thing, because if your company then does need to change its articles, do you know what members and articles are? Articles of association. They dictate what your business can actually do. And it's called the objects of the company. So if at some point, as we've all established, you know, you're starting out doing one area of work, but you want to then evolve into another area of work, and you might want to take investment, or you might want to apply for grant funding. If the objects in the Articles Association don't allow that, all the good work that you can do means that it's irrelevant, because if it goes in front of somebody that you've got to put in a certain criteria to meet, they look at your company in detail, the Articles Association, they'll just say, no, why are they coming to us? Does that make sense? Yeah. So stuff like this, I mean, this is quite interesting, and one of the things that we've been wanting to do, Unity Radio's, my business has been running for 17 years, and it's not been easy, and we're not going to go into the pits and you know, troughs and stuff that being in the public sector create, because of the way that like things like austerity funding, grant funding, and different initiatives can really impact on what you can actually access. But the reality of it is making sure that you as a director, as you as the visionary, has some agility. And this first part of, you know, your first step out the gate really is really something to be considered. It's not something to just do and then come back to in a couple of years. And that's one of the things that I think is really missing with supporting grassroots entrepreneurs, and I would like to see a lot more of that. I think that there does need to be a lot more involvement and advice and training to help grassroots entrepreneurs, so that the ecology that we're all a part of, because we all have different roles and we're doing different things, can be stronger. Do you know what I mean? That everybody's benefiting from each other. So I'm here to be, I can't do it now, but I'm very happy to be able to just show you the mistakes I've made. You can learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, I'd love to, man. We'll book it in.
Due to timing, unfortunately, we're not going to get through any more questions. I'm so sorry. But if you did want to ask any of your panelists, I'm sure that they'll be willing to talk to you straight after. But I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you to everyone that's shown up here today. Thank you to my incredible panelists for just being so open and real and honest. Quickly, very quickly, can we get you to just shout out your socials where people can follow you, engage with you? I'm not sure if they can slide in your DMs, but if they can, then make note. We'll start with you quickly, Shanti.
So it's just SHANTECM _ on Twitter and Instagram, and I've got like my email linked to my Instagram. So if anybody wants to send music, feel free.
Mine is I am Lady Ice on all social platforms. Make sure you follow that.
For me, if you go to Linktree, £30 Gentleman, everything is there. So £30 Gentleman, Linktree.
Paris O on everything. That's Paris PARRIS, because my mum made my life complicated. And then just OH, literally Paris O everywhere.
At Unity Radio FM and at MCR _hip _hop _archive.
Lots of underscores there. Thank you guys so much. Big up for our panel. Give it up. Hey. If you want to quickly try and grab them while you can, then please do. And be sure to follow Access All Areas on the socials. I'm sure this is just the beginning in terms of their tour and what we do next. So thank you again. My name is Rafaela Coleman. You can follow me at Queen _ Rafaela. So thank you.